Hello from the Fish God. I'm here today. I'm going to tie up a micro minnow. This is a pattern I've been using here recently on my little test water here locally. I had seen it on Fly Fish Food. Cheech tied this. He used a carp hook, a Boneo carp hook. What I'm using is a little bit different. I've got a Mustad 37-160, and this is a size 16. I'm using something a little different for a couple of reasons. I want a straight shank, but I want a big gap. And if you look, I'm going to put my finger right up behind that. This hook is less than my fingertip. It's pretty small hook. This is a micro minnow. The reason I want that big gap is the ability to hook up fish. I also want the keel function. So the part that hangs below will keep this minnow swimming in a good position. So that's why I'm using this hook. It's a little different than what Cheech uses. I can reference his hook as well as ours. You can use a couple others. I've used a Firehole 317 as well on a smaller size, I think maybe a 14, just because it has the same properties. I don't really think the hook makes a great deal of difference if it's got a short shank and a wide gap. What I'm going to tie on first, I'm going to tie on some Polar Flash in a dark olive pearl. So, and that's the color. I've got maybe a dozen strands here. I'm going to go ahead and just lay these on and tie them in. I've kind of come back into the bend. I'm using 70 denier ultra thread, and I'm using that. It's a white ultra thread. Let's see if I can get that to hold while I pull. There we go. And then I'll just tie that down. Just didn't want to trim. I'm lazy, basically lazy. Okay, so I've got maybe a dozen threads, dozen fibers in there. This makes minnows typically have when they're really small, they're transparent, and they have a gut sac, and this will give it a little color and give it that gut sac. I'm going to make it about the hook shank in length. Here's a quick tip. If you take your leftover and give it a lick, that'll hold them together so you can have them ready for your next fly. Not that you need more tips, but I'm always trying to provide a little something. I'm going to throw one wrap underneath this. This is a very minimal fly. One thing to remember, less is more. As tiers, we tend to forget that less is more. Most of these bugs and minnows are really pretty small and pretty minimal. And we, as fly tiers, tend to overdress our flies dramatically. So I just put very little on there. I'm going to use some Ripple Ice Fiber in UV Pearl. Okay. Here, I've got this in the package. You can see it's just kind of a mess. What you do is you grab a few fibers and pull them out. They'll come out straight, and then you'll have the mess again because they go right back to a curly configuration. All I'm doing is kind of straightening these out. Going to get forgot. Almost forgot. Got to have a tail. The tail on this will keep it from fouling. And almost forgot. Bucktail. Okay, I've got a petite white bucktail. It's fairly short. You don't need a whole lot. Again, you want to underdress this fly as opposed to overdress it. I'm going to trim off a little bit off the bucktail. Okay, so I've got that trimmed off the bucktail. And if you notice, they're all different lengths. If you just stack them a little bit, okay, and get them approximate length, okay, you can get rid of the short ones and kind of get them approximate. You see how I've got them right there? I've got two different. I'm going to try and get them approximate length where they're both about, each batch is about the same length. There you go. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be. What I'm going to do now is kind of measure this out. I want this probably double as long as the tail, okay, as the body, I should say. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure it, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this so I can tie it down clean. Bring my thread back up here. Tie this down right here with a little pinch wrap back over it. It'll make a nice white body. Just like that. Okay. So again, you see about the length there. It's probably just a little past double as long as the tail. Now we can go on to that ripple ice fiber. So I'm going to grab those strands again if I can figure out what I did with them. Well, let's grab another pack out of here. Okay, take another little pinch. I'm going to grab them here. It's not many fibers, as you could probably count them if you really wanted to. I'm just taking a little pinch. I'm going to stretch them out. I'm going to lay them up on here, and I'm going to kind of just wrap over it. It's going to kind of fan it around it. I'm giving big wraps. I'm going to take the excess and fold it back on itself. Okay. And then a couple more wraps to tie down. And then I'm going to wrap forward a little bit. If you want to trim this now, you can kind of hold it up like that and come in with your scissors and just kind of push and trim at the same time, which will taper them. I'm going to grab another batch. We're going to do it again. So I don't need to do this on camera. You've seen it once. You've probably seen it a million times. What's nice about this, it really is a translucent fly. It's transparent. You can see right through this. So I've got that little batch there. I've got maybe a few more on this one. It's closer to the head. I'm going to do a loose wrap over it. See how it kind of wrapped it around the hook shank? I want that. And then I'm going to take what's forward and kind of push it back. So some are on top, some are around the side, but it's all getting covered. I'm going to pull all of them back, throw a couple more thread wraps over the top to hold them back. And now I'm going to build a little head. This is basically the entire fly right here. If I want to trim them now, I can go ahead and trim them a little bit. But there's not a whole lot to this, is there? It's pretty small. What we're going to do now is I'm going to build up a little base for the eyes. So I'm going to use this white thread, and I'm going to build up a little base here. What I'm trying to do is have a place to mount the eyes. I'm going to use some 2mm stick-on eyes, and you can use super glue gel if you want to get them started. I'm going to use some vinyl epoxy, actually some vinyl plastic adhesive from Loctite. This is what I'm using, vinyl fabric and plastic flexible adhesive, transparent. So, but I've got basically a nice little base there to place the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and whip finish this real quick. Get this done. I've got a nice little base here. The adhesive and the rosin, the UV resin that we're going to use will seal off this head, so I don't really have to worry about gluing it. I don't really have to worry about more than one whip finish unless I'm a little OCD, which I tend to be. I'm going to go ahead now and I'll show you how I'm going to apply this resin. The first thing I'm going to do is put a little dab of that resin on a card I've got sitting next to my bench. I've got a little dab on there. A little dab will do you. Now I'm going to take basically a sewing pin and just get a little glob on a sewing pin. So I've got a little glob there. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on its side, put a little dab right there. Little dab will do you. I'm going to come around to the other side, put a little dab on there. If you notice, I've got one hand that's resting on the vise and the other hand is holding the pin that I'm using. That's so I can stop shaking. You know, as you get old, you get the shakes. So now I got two little dabs on there. That's great. Now I'm going to show you how to take these. These are 2mm eyes. They're either 2 or 3. They're very tiny. They look huge when you first see them on a card like this until you see a needle right next to it. What you do is you come in underneath the eye with the needle and then push it on. It's got a little adhesive on the back. Once you got it pushed on, you can then transfer it where you want it. So now I'm going to take that needle and just basically lay it here against the adhesive that's on there. I'm trying to roll the needle off. That helped. And now I'm going to position that where I want it. So once I get it where I want it, I'll give it a little push and it'll hold on. This is a temporary deal right now. I'm going to go around to the other side, do the same thing. Take my needle, put it up under the eye, push it onto the adhesive. Sometimes they don't come off quite as easily as you'd like them to. This one was giving me a little bit of issue just getting it on the needle. Once I got it on the needle, I'm going to put it up here on the side and position it. Again, I'm going to try and stabilize my hand with the other hand. If I can't do it, well, and occasionally you get them going somewhere you don't want them to go. There we go. And you can see that one's riding high, so I'm going to push it back down. Oop. Little technical error, I pushed it right off. I may have not put enough adhesive on that side, but let's try it again. Got it back up here. See if I can't stabilize against it. Push it on. There we go. So now's the time where I'm gonna try and position those eyes. There's really one time, you get one chance at putting these things on, and it's when the glue's still fluid. I'm gonna push them on, get them where I want them. Take a look at it from from the top. They're about even. Look at it from the bottom, they're about even. So I've got them where I want them. So at this point, I'm going to take some UV resin, and I'm using UV clear fly finish from Loon, and this is thin. Cheech uses a thicker resin. I like it to soak in a little bit. I think it'll be a little bit more durable if it soaks in. And I build it up in layers. So I'm going to put a little bit right here on top in the material. And you see it just soaks right in. Okay? And I'm going to let it soak in. I want it to soak in because that will actually make it adhere a little better. So it's soaked in. I'm going to pull the material back and then hit it with the a UV laser that I've got, which I love these UV lasers. They're real quick. They dry almost immediately. You can overcook them with a UV laser and make that a little too brittle, depending on the resin. You'll find that you can actually make them smoke with that laser, which is a fun party trick, but probably not good for your flies, and probably not good for your health. Okay, so now I've got the base set. Now anything I build on top of that base will stay put. So I'm going to go around the eye a little bit, get a little bit into the material around it. Okay, but you see how that's just basically going to sit real well. Go ahead and hit it with the light. It's set. I'm going to come around, do the other side, do the eye a little bit on the side here. Okay, like that. And then fill in the top and bottom, and it's done. So I've got it right now basically completed. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the top just to round out that head just a little bit, and you'll see what I mean. When you put that on here, now it won't fill in. It won't disappear on you because it's not soaking in. There's a base there for it. So now I've got a nice rounded head. And it fills in real smooth. It's beautiful, does a great job. Don't really need any more on the bottom. I'm pretty sure I got it just where I want it. What I'm trying to do is make sure that there's plenty of room, plenty of gap room, so the fish gets a good hookup. I want it as straight as I can on top. That's basically it. Now, if you want to, you could take a black Sharpie and color the back with a black Sharpie. I don't find a need to do that. I have been putting a little red dot or a little orange. I've actually been putting a little orange dot on the back here with a UV Sharpie. Just a little orange dot like that. Gives it just a hint of color. But the thing is, this is such a sparse, tiny fly, and there's very little. It's like I said, there's very little on it. Now, there's a couple of stragglers. We'll just clean those up, and you can do that at any time. I just want to give you a last look at this before we go. I'm going to back it out a little bit. Kind of give you an idea. That's the size of the fly. I mean, that's my fingertip, so it's pretty small. This fly just seems to do wonders. What I've been fishing this behind, actually, we were laughing because they were hitting the indicators. We were fishing some small perdigons down below, and an indicator about 30 inches down. and they were hitting the indicator. So I came up with a gurgler that we could use as an indicator. And we suspended this about 30 inches down from that indicator. And you'd hit the gurgler, it would make this fly jump up, the gurgler would dive, and then back to a floating position. And when the gurgler would dive, this fly would come from wherever it had been sitting 30 inches below and move in an upward motion. It's been driving them crazy. So we've been using that here for the last week or so, just having a ball with it. It's really durable. This thing hooks very well. I love the hook setting properties of this Mustad 37160. It's really been a nice modification. So thank you for watching this. I hope you like this micro minnow. Make sure and subscribe and like if you would if you do like the video. Leave some comments. I love hearing the comments. I've had some great comments, some really outstanding suggestions, and we're trying to implement those as we go along with this. It's a pleasure to do this. I love passing on the knowledge. And again, thank you for watching. Have a really great day. Bye-bye.